princess was filled with rejoicing. Welcome back. This is Buddhist Books Podcast, episode 290, Padmasambhava, part 20, in which we will continue reading The Life and Liberation of Padmasambhava by Yeshe Tsogyal. We're going to be reading Canto 40, and then depending on how long Canto 40 is, maybe we'll read 41, and we'll see where it goes from there. Hope everybody's doing well. If you would like to start at the beginning of the Padmasambhava playlist, or anywhere in the middle of it, you can click right there, and that'll take you to the playlist. So, without further ado, I'll go ahead and get to today's reading.
Padmasambhava, 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 Padmasambhava.
Canto 40. The Meeting with Princess Mandarava. Remember we brought her statue out last time when they started telling her story. And the ire of King Zahor. I think that's her dad. Then he of Udayana, Padmasambhava, you know him, right? Saw that the time had come to instruct Mandarava and her retinue. Remember, she had like hundreds of nuns. Anyway, like the iridescent shimmering of the misty clouds which rise with the sun. From the island on the Danakosa Lake in Udayana, he made his way through the heavens to Zahor. In the monkey year, on the 10th day of the pig month, the princess and her retinue were in their private park. Appearing as a serene youth of 8 years, Padma sat cross-legged above the park. Radiant in majesty within a rainbow-colored halo, he smiled and expressed the gestures of the Dharma. When she saw him, the princess swooned in faithful fervor and fell to the ground. Padma revived her by his mercy toward her. He gathered body, speech, and mind under his influence by the messenger of arousing. And she came to her senses and rejoiced. She told several of her women to prepare a throne, while others were directed to remain attentive, and others to keep an eye on the road. The Prince of Victory alighted on the ground, and Mandarava, happy and well satisfied, sang this stanza of invitation to the palace, quote, Emaho, triumphant one, chief jewel among the sons of the Buddha. Buddha, who has attained perfection and has taken upon himself the well-being of others, who captures all beings by the hook of grace, who is like the healing power of love, dazzling, joyful epiphany, extending favor to all, placing friends and foes alike in your vessel of salvation, sole protection for blinded beings, constant consent to sojourn here and expound the Dharma." End quote. Then, having invited him to the palace, she arranged and offered him a lofty seat adorned with jewels. The door having been closed and all entry forbidden, she prepared a round offering of victuals and refreshing beverages, and gave as gifts gold, silver, pearls, variegated stones, sandalwood, cotton, whatever is woven on a loom, and whatever is fitting for the body or savory to the taste. Taking a lowly seat, the princess showed him the greatest reverence, and, after bowing down to him humbly, asked in well-chosen phrases, quote, "You who assume the appearance of a Buddha of the 3 times, sublime personage, in what country were you born? What is your name? What is your family? Your father and mother? Pour for me the nectar of your holy words." End quote. Now, the conqueror addressed the nun. Quote, "With no father to engender me other than the void of the essential plane, with no mother to bear me other than the void, wisdom, of the liberating lineage that frees the world, supreme gift for man, I shall bring about perfection through bliss. In the field of the glorious converting Buddhas, I reveal myself to each being as manifest master of the body of metamorphosis. In the earliest times, as Amitabha in his bodies of essence and of metamorphosis. On Mount Potala, Avalokiteshvara, the protector, incarnated in Dhanakosa as Padmasambhava. A triple theophany, in form akin to the symbolic modes, and I am the last of several who in reality are identical, sojourning on the plane of essence, Samantabhadra, in the unsurpassed heaven, the lofty Dorje Chang, on the diamond throne, the great Muni himself, indivisible, appearing in me, Padma, greater than all possessions, a marvelous benediction for beings. 8 fathers engendered me, and 8 mothers bore me. I traveled in 8 countries, dwelled in 8 places, and in the same fashion carried out the evocation in 8 ceremonies, with 8 names as Guru, 8 consciousnesses, 8 aspects as the Master, the Diamond Guru, 8 orders of illusions, 8 glorious aspects, 8 difficult achievements, 8 funeral aspects, 8 borrowed names. Now this is the number 8, not past tense of to eat, just if you remember. 8 present names, having reached the limits of knowledge and merit, total perfection. Prince supremely excellent, an inconceivable incarnation in past, present, and future. I erect at the 10 directions of space the banners of the teaching. End quote. And the princess was filled with rejoicing. Padma set turning the wheel of the Dharma of the 3 yogas and made fall the rain of the Dharma. Content she was and happy. Now one morning, in a landowner's great estate, an oxherd, whose karma was impure, set out to find his cattle. Having failed to do so, he turned back and saw the conqueror settle on the ground. He saw the princess invite him to the palace, and finally, pricking his ears, he heard a male voice. At that time, the whole kingdom of Zahur had nothing but praise for Princess Mandarava. To those men and women who believed in her, the oxherd said, after he had returned to the landowner's estate, quote, "A Samanian vagabond, muddling the Dharma with who knows what law, is doing something that is anything but the Dharma." End quote. The following morning, the children repeated this as they rounded up the goats, and it was repeated by one person, and by another, and by the notables, and one after the other, by the ministers of the exterior, of the interior, and by queens. A young queen repeated it to the king. The king said, quote, "What is she saying? Is she insane? A woman's mouth is a storehouse of malice. Greatly do women lie. Women are demons. Bring hither the first one that uttered these words." End quote. The queen led before the king the ministers of the interior, and they in their turn the ministers of the exterior, and they in their turn the notables. And the notables summoned the people. Quote, "It is said that Princess Flower Mandarava is keeping company with a Samanian. Let him be handed over, if a man sees him, to a minister's official, if a woman sees him, to a queen's official. He who has an eye to see and a hand to seize, let him speak." End quote. Thus bellowed the great herald in a loud voice, but many suns rose before anyone claimed to have seen him, and this infamy spread over the surface of the earth. Then the ministers seized hold of the notables and brought them before the king. The king declared, quote, "You are not telling me everything. Let all who desired the girl be appraised of the situation." End quote. And the king said, quote, "Do not kill these noblemen, but bind them closely and throw them in the dungeon. End quote. And the king went to the palace where the princess was, and spied everywhere, but saw nothing. He then went outside the palace and proclaimed, quote, "Ministers, all of you, strike the drum of the edicts." End quote. And the people of Zahur, of every rank, hastened to gather in the bazaar of riches. The great herald proclaimed, quote, "The princess who abandoned the world to follow the law of the gods is keeping company with a Samanian. Who has seen him? Whoever declares he has seen them will receive this pile of riches." But many suns rose without anyone coming forward, and the king of the frontier lands discussed the news. The kings of the frontier lands discussed the news. The king of India sent for 7 Brahmins. The king of China, 5 scholars. The king of Bengal, 10 doctors. The king of Baida, 3 ministers. The king of Udiana, 8 dancers. The king of Kashmir, a group of merchants. The king of Khotan, a group of beggars. The king of Persia, a college of musicians, the king of Gesar, 3 yogis, the king of Zhangzung, 2 bonpos, young, old, everybody. Even little children were asked about Princess Mandarava. Then the wife of a notable tricked the cowherd. Quote, "They are not giving you the equivalent of your animal's ration. All you need do is whisper among the crowd that you have seen them." End quote. And the wives of the notables together gave various presents to the cowherd to content him. He circulated among the motley crew in the bazaar, and after the great herald had made his proclamation, the cowherd stood up in the midst of the crowd. He was marked with the 9 marks of ugliness: a huge head, projecting buttocks, rough skin, a mountainous goiter, a large mouth, a flat nose, cavernous eye, excessive height, and a black protruding upper tooth. He spoke. Quote, "I saw them. Look inside the palace." End quote. And after the man had been feasted and feted, the king ordered, quote, "Ministers, go and look." End quote. But the queen interjected, quote, "I will go instead." End quote. And she was the first to set off. Now the serving women barred the door to prevent her entering. The queen thought, quote, "It is true," end quote, and she fainted. The ministers told the king, who said, quote, "Sprinkle the queen with water and bring her back. Break in one side of the door with a hatchet. Lay hold of the Samanian and bring him here." End quote. So the ministers broke down the door and entered. Mounted on a lofty throne covered with jewels, the saint, bright as a mirror reflecting the sun, a radiant splendor dazzling the eyes, was teaching the Dharma in the resounding voice of Brahma. The princess and her attendants put their hands together and wept. Not daring to lay hands on him, the ministers once again begged the king, quote, "This foreign Shramana is extraordinary. He is a Vaisravana, or a son of Brahma. He is, as it were, the princess's guru. We do not dare lay hold of him." End quote. The king was furious when he heard this. Quote, "This foreigner is dishonoring my daughter. Tie up this Samanian of low birth. Demand a tribute of sesame seed oil from the villagers, and let him be burned alive in palm leaves. As for the princess, who has received and sheltered a man, who now has consorted with a ne'er-do-well vagabond, put her in a pit carpeted with thorns, and leave her there for 25 human years, and put a dome over it, so that she may not see the blue sky, and erect a double screen, so that she may not see the sun. Do not let the 500 women servants cross the threshold, and hurl into a dungeon whoever has heard the man's voice." With that the king end quote. With that the king returns to his palace. Then out of the dungeon they pulled the notables, whose long hair, flesh, skin, bones, and eyes were stuffed with lice and nits. Their wives had gathered together, and the notables were regaled with food and shelter, and they all greatly rejoiced. Then the notables called the chief sergeant. Men were sent to capture the Shramana, who was then thrown to the ground. And ministers of the exterior and the interior, along with the notables, after digging the hole and cutting the thorns, went to the palace where the princess was residing. Of the history unabridged of the lives of the Guru of Udayana, Padmasambhava. This is the 40th canto. The Meeting with Princess Mandarava. Sealed Oaths. Well, I don't know about you, but if you've ever been young and had a romance and the girl's father was a problem, then maybe you too can relate with that story just a little bit. Anyway, Canto 41. The bonfire built by the king of Zahor, who later repents. Oh, that's good. You're letting us know a twist that comes later in the story. When the notables laid down the law, quote, Samanian, you have defiled the princess. We, the notables, though innocent, have undergone the king's punishment. The princess has not returned to her dwelling, and because of the profanation of the royal blood, we have been falsely accused. End quote. To this the princess rejoined, quote, This son of the conquerors is nothing but my spiritual master. End quote. But despite all her assertions that he was exempt from the world's sins, it was useless. They threw themselves on the guru, some tearing at his clothes, others holding his feet and hands. Then the princess said, quote, My heart will break. My body is undergoing intolerable pain, and out of grief my eyes are filled with tears. End quote. Friendship was helpless to give the least assistance. The guru had his hands tied behind his back, and a hempen noose around his neck. Alas, alas, that men should have dared to do this. They urged him forward with blows along a track worn by horses and cows. And then, having called a hilt in a deserted place where 3 valleys meet, they sought out and heaped up thorny vine shoots with an equal quantity of palm leaves, and covered the surface with sesame oil, 1 measure to each load of sandalwood. Then, tying the being of victory, they put him in the middle, set fire to the 4 corners, and fanned everything, so that the smoke went swirling in clouds throughout the valley. Then the ministers returned home. But a great earthquake occurred, with a terrible noise. The gods of the Empyrean, unwilling to tolerate this deed, raised loud lamentations, which were heard by the gods of desire. From the heaven of the 33, the 4 great kings, having heard of the afflicted one who put up no struggle, came to the rescue. From the unsurpassed heaven, as from the heaven formed alone, the blessed ones assembled like a starry Pleiad. And with shouts and murmurings the Dakinis quickly came, some bringing water, others throwing it, some removing the wood, others undoing the bonds, some pouring down rain, while others contained the flood of water. For 7 days the smoke rose. Quote, From other funeral pyres, end quote, thought the king, quote, The smoke has dispersed in 3 days, but even after 7 days this smoke has not scattered. End quote. He had means of transportation prepared, and went to see for himself. Incredulous, he saw that the pyre had been transformed into a lake of water, girt about by large ditches filled with fire, whose flames were burning upside down. From the center of the lake a lotus issued forth, and the lotus supported a child of 8, whose body was as though dyed in the purple of seashells, and whose face was covered with a dew-like perspiration. The whole sky was haloed with iridescent light. 100 maidens who resemble the princess were uttering praises, and there were 100 octillion splendors and accumulated benedictions. The king, unable to believe his eyes, looked on all sides, but wherever he looked it was the same. Quote, "Do my eyes deceive me?" End quote, he wondered, and rubbing his eyes he looked again and again. The child addressed the king thus, quote, "Burning alive, a Buddha of the 3 times, the supreme essence, how did such a sinful king come to be? Worldly and deceitful, you aspire to the Dharma, but deliver insane judgments. How did such a sinful king come to be? Clinging to the 5 poisons of misery, the roots of ignorance, both now and later. How did such a sinful king come to be? The happiness of beings, the basis of all counsels. Have the king and his ministers, proud of their crimes, seen to that?" End quote. Hearing these words, the king fell on the ground. Quote, "Master, I realize that I have done such things." End quote. Violently striking his chest with both hands, head and body prostrated, he rolled about like a fish thrown on burning sand. Quote, "Yes, such am I," end quote, he lamented. The weeping ministers looked on at King Arshadara and the child. First one, and then others, appeared at that place. For the rumor was spreading that the foreign Shramana was not dead, and hearing of the matter, both men and women ran to see, first those of the country of Zahur, even bent old folk who were carried or who tapped along with a stick. Then from 100,000 leagues distance and from many countries, there gathered in a crowd the rulers of the earth. Then the king, a crumpled heap, his face to the earth, wept and abased himself, performing adorations without number. Quote, "I have done evil deeds, which my remorse does not expiate, but the burning fire did no harm. Between the incandescent ditches the sesame oil streamed into the lake. In the middle of the lake a lotus stalk rose, and in the heart of the lotus sat the Buddha of the 3 times. To you, exempt from faults, who knows no vicissitudes, blessed Padmasambhava be praised. My guilty spirit failed to recognize your celestial being, but without hiding anything or trying to keep anything secret, I confess and expiate all. I offer you the throne and beg you to accept it." End quote. Quote, "Mighty King Arsadharha," end quote, said the child. Quote, "I succeed you and become king." End quote. Quote, "Then watch over this empire of ignorant folk, and may your lordship deign to enter the palace." End quote. From the assembly of the lords of the good law, Indra, the king of the gods, arriving with his retinue, made the lute resound and praised him. The champion Padma, Muni of the world, together with his retinue, he made the tabor resound and praised him. Quote, "Hri? To the body of essence, Lama unfeigned and free from ego action. To the body of fruition, Lama of blissful actions. To the body of metamorphosis, Lama who manifested from the lotus stalk. To the 3 bodies, to Vajradhara, obeisance and praise to the body, immutable body of Samantabhadra, to the speech which is impartial and full of knowledge, to the heart, unwavering and ineffable thought and expression, praise to Padma Gyalpo, to the conqueror's body, speech, and mind, to him who appeared as benefactor, Amitabha, to the being adorned with many blessed perfections, to Padma Gyalpo who dominates the world, to Dorja Todtrang Tsal, Vajra strength of the rosary of death's heads, obeisance and praise, to Vajra the pacifier, Dorje Todtrang Tsal, to the great artisan, Ratna Todtrang Tsal, to the dominator, Padma Todtrang Tsal, Todtrang Tsal, to the sorcerer, Karma Todtrang Tsal, to the one formed all at once, Buddha Todtrang Tsal, to the master of the perfect deeds, obeisance and praise, Hri, to the uncreated, exempt from any faults, to Padma Jungne, praise, to the realizer of the perfections, to Padmasambhava, praise, to the illuminer of the shadows, to Nima Odzer, praise, to the one who tames the fourfold Mara and evil guides, to Shakya Sang, praise, to the one who vanquishes Tirtikas and the gnomes of pestilence, to Senge Dradog, praise, to the one who is open to all that must be known, to Lodan Chogsed, praise. To the one who dominates the three worlds and the three domains, to Padma Gyalpo, praise. To the one who annihilates Mara and evil guides, to Dorje Trolod, praise. For him total felicity has been achieved. To Yeshe Khandro, praise. Thereupon the Guru spoke, quote, King Arsadara, listen. How could my body, which is of an ethereal nature, experience pleasure and pain? On this immaculate body the element of fire inflicts no harm, nor does it cause the least discomfort. As an animate being one meets with error, a king is endowed with all the perfections, like Mount Meru, since I intend to lead diverse beings to the paths of the Buddha, I will proclaim the royal orders. End quote. At that, the king bowed down many times and said to the ministers, quote, Quick, to the palace! Open the new store of silk garments. Bring all my headgear and clothing. Go and fetch the chariot, the parasol, and the victory banners. End quote. The ministers hastened to the palace, and on the chariot they spread soft satins in a heap. And to the four corners they fastened tintinnabulating banners. Padma donned the 5 royal robes, one over the other. First the robe of silk on a blue background, then the straighted robe, the red one, the one of samite, and finally the great cloak. On his head he put the lotus petal crown, on which a jewel of 5 colors held fast a golden vajra with 9 points, with an eagle feather at the peak. He also put on the variegated tiara with the propitiatory scarves, the diadem that sparkled with gems and with golden suns and moons. Finally he donned a sintamani, the most admirable headdress. Among the 11 million Jambudvipa regions to be converted, he displayed the prodigy of 11 million Padmasambhavas. Invited to mount the chariot, he seated himself. But who would pull the chariot? Descending from his high estate, the king removed all clothes, put the cord around his neck, and pulled. 100 athletes cleared the way. Then the crowd pressed in, some prostrating themselves, others praying, some weeping, others falling in a faint, yet others running on ahead or following, gazing at Padma's feet. Padma was taken to the palace, a palace of 7 precious substances, and was requested to seat himself upon the throne, adorned with precious stones. Of the history unabridged of the lives of the Guru of Udayana, Padmasambhava, this is the 41st canto. The bonfire erected by the king of Zahor. Sealed oaths. Well, that was fun. Quite a thing, that. Not sure what to say. I think I'll just say nothing and move ahead with the closing. For those who are new, so this is episode 290. So every time the number of the episode ends with a 0, then we read this book. So next time it'll be 291. So we'll be reading the Tipitaka of pre-sectarian early Buddhism. Wherever you see the little Dharma wheel, we most of the time we're reading the Tipitaka, and there's a few other things we read, Zen Sutra and Shingon. But anyway, that's what's happening. So please feel free to hit like and subscribe and join us on our journey to read all the ancient Buddhist scriptures translated into English. Okay, I'll go ahead and do our usual closing. To the north and to the south, to the east and to the west, to the spirits of light among us, and to the spirits below, we send out our reverent love and compassion. May all beings be happy. May all beings be serene. May all beings be in peace. Until next time.